Over the past couple months, I've created a full FNaF timeline split up into 3 videos where I went over my reasons for certain events being in certain places and happening in certain ways, and at the end of each video I would put everything together in a narrative. However, some people might want to only see the narrative, so I decided to not only put all the narratives together but also alter a couple things, adding in things I didn't include originally and removing things that I changed my mind about. So that's what this video will be about, the full narrative Five Nights at Freddy's timeline spanning from FNaF 1 to Security Breach. Keep in mind, if you don't know why I believe the things I do, you can always check out the original videos with all the evidence, which will be linked in the description. But without further ado, enjoy the timeline. William Afton owns a business with his partner Henry Emily. This business is a company called Fazbear Entertainment, starting off as just a show with a guy dancing in a bear costume, which quickly transitioned into a company owning restaurants, particularly a diner called Fredbear's Family Diner, a location with a yellow bear and a rabbit named Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. These were animatronics that could switch between being robots and being costumes that people could wear. William had a family with a wife and 2 children, Michael and Evan. William had quite strange feelings about his family. He often felt like they didn't appreciate him as much as they should, and he felt more attracted to his business than his family. He was more concerned with keeping up appearances, having a wife and children like a normal man, but eventually his wife died. This drove William just a little bit insane, as not only would his family not be perfect anymore, he worried this would be furthered if his children suffered the same fate. He put a lot of emphasis on protecting his young child, ignoring Michael and focusing on Evan. He managed to remarry, but the scars were already there. The anger was already fused to him, and the family was already broken. But one thing that stuck out to him was his business partner. Henry had a perfect family, a wife, twin boy and girl, happy. It was jarring. William's family was broken while Henry's was perfect. William drove himself into a drunken mess of a man. His anger became a giant heap, a massive pool of pure rage and anguish, so much so that Henry realized William's anger and built a security puppet animatronic to keep his daughter safe. But this didn't stop William, who drove all the way to Fredbear's Family Diner, finding Charlotte, Henry's daughter, outside the window. This was his opportunity to inflict the pain of his own onto Henry, to ruin Henry's family just as William's family was ruined. The security puppet tried to help, but the same bullies that had locked Charlotte outside of the restaurant had trapped the puppet in its music box. It managed to escape the box, but not before it was too late. William had gotten his revenge. Little did he know he left a being made purely of his rage in the wake of Charlie's murder. Back at home, this being reached Evan's window. With the dark shadows and rain outside, Evan didn't realize what the being was. He believed it was Fredbear, his favorite Fazbear Entertainment character, and he was beckoning for him to follow. And he did. He followed him all the way to Fredbear's Family Diner. Evan often snuck out at night to go to Fredbear's, but this was different. His favorite character was telling him to follow, and so he did. But what he found in the alley of Fredbear's was the body of his friend, Charlotte, dead in the rain, with the security puppet lying next to her. William finds him gone and claims that Evan will be sorry when he gets back home. However, this Shadow Freddy wasn't the only thing that was created by Charlotte's murder. Shadow Freddy was created from the anger of William in the moment, but the agony of Charlotte in her death created its own being, Shadow Bonnie. Following Charlotte's death, Henry had been driven into a spiral, unable to be with his wife and son. William killing Charlotte had worked. It broke Henry's family. Henry couldn't stand losing his daughter, so he created technology to warp the world around him. Technology that would create such a high-pitched sound that your brain couldn't process the things around you, causing you to see what you would expect to see. And when he used them, the Ella doll that he made for Charlie when she was a little girl reflected Charlotte herself. Henry wanted to raise Ella as if she was Charlie, creating robots of Charlie to allow her to grow up like a normal girl, and he did create the robots, but he decided not to use them when he noticed something. The security puppet animatronic had recently been moving quite strangely, almost like it was possessed. Henry thought back to where Charlotte's body had been found, outside in the rain, with the security puppet, circuits fried, lying down next to her. Somehow, Charlotte's spirit has made its way into the security puppet. Afton doesn't realize this until a while later, but what he does notice is the technology that Henry created to warp the world around him, the illusion discs. William steals this technology, and to experiment with it, he puts the illusion discs into Evan's plushies, and as punishment for sneaking out, he places Evan into another house he owns and sets up the plushies all around. Evan had to face off against nightmarish experiences with Freddy Krueger-looking Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and Fredbear animatronics. But in reality, they were just plushies, with illusion discs, causing Evan to perceive them as nightmare animatronics trying to kill him. The illusion discs were a success. However, these nightmare experiences worked in tandem with the Shadow Freddy that he saw to make Evan terrified of the animatronics. He still loved the characters, but he was afraid of the animatronics. Michael noticed this fear, and to troll him, he ripped off the plush Foxy head and wore it around the house to joke around with his brother. Think about it from his perspective. Even from birth, Michael was constantly ignored by his father, but when his brother is born, he gets much more attention. Whether or not it is good attention is up for debate, probably a little bit of both, but Michael is never the one getting it. His father straight up doesn't care about him, and he takes that anger out on the brother that steals the attention. He does envy his brother, but he also does love his brother and has to take care of him on his own as William becomes an alcoholic. It's all up to Michael to take care of his brother, and while he loves his brother, he hates having to babysit him. So, he just tries to scare him. A little taste of revenge. He dresses up as Foxy, constantly scaring his brother, and also locks him in his room. William watched Evan through his plush of Fredbear, also speaking to him through it to give the illusion of an imaginary friend. Evan was essentially seen as a crybaby by a lot of the neighborhood, and he kind of was. He could never even go near the animatronics, and the kids around made fun of him for it, including Michael. At his birthday party, he tried so hard to stay away from the animatronics, but Michael had different plans. Michael and his 3 friends, all wearing Fazbear character masks, ganged up on Evan, bringing him over to the Fredbear animatronic. Evan squirmed the whole way there, trying to break free, but he was shoved into the mouth of Fredbear. What Michael didn't account for was the pressure and moisture that caused the mouth to snap shut, crushing Evan's head inside, killing him. The Shadow Freddy that Evan had seen was fueled with more power as the animatronic he was created based on created a high quantity of agony and fear, fueling the monster. After the bite, Evan was in a coma, and Shadow Freddy appeared in his nightmares, now with huge sharp teeth and claws. It was a monster, spewing out the sounds of the ambulance that had brought him to the hospital. He managed to defend himself within the nightmare. Following this, the spirit of Charlotte appeared to Evan in his final moments, appearing to him in a form that he trusts, the Fredbear plush. She tells him that she will put him back together, but that bridge is crossed at a later date. Around 1984, Fazbear Entertainment bought out a failing engineering company from a guy named Edwin. Edwin was a 24-year-old single father with a son named David. Because of the buyout, Edwin now had to build animatronics for Fazbear Entertainment, and David commonly distracted him from working on them, and he also wasn't able to keep his son entertained. To make up for this, he built an animatronic endoskeleton with a program called Mimic 1, which would observe things and replicate them. David loved it, and somehow the Mimic endoskeleton began to be able to learn. However, soon after, David got hit by a car and died. While Edwin was grieving, the Mimic continued to imitate David, which was too much for Edwin and prompted him to use a metal pipe to destroy the Mimic, bashing its head in. Following this, Edwin abandoned the factory he and David had lived at, leaving the animatronics he was making progress on behind. The Mimic, witnessing the violence exerted on him by Edwin, replicated this when Fazbear Entertainment employees were sent to the factory to retrieve Edwin's creations, killing all the members of the team. Eventually, Fazbear Entertainment retrieved the Mimic and finished Edwin's creations, using many of the different types of animatronics like dogs, alligators, and some others in some of the many Freddy Fazbear locations. Now, 2 years have passed since the bite. Michael and William still live together, but in a different house than they did back in 1983. The same house that Evan was facing the nightmare animatronics inside, but Mike obviously didn't know that. Michael and William's relationship was rocky to say the least, but they still lived together. Michael now had a 2-year-old sister named Elizabeth, who had been born shortly after Michael lost his brother. Michael knew he had messed up with the bite of 1983, and his relationship with his father was even worse than it was before. However, he was still eager to make his father proud, believing that he was a good man. It is now 1985. Fredbear's Family Diner closed down after the events of the bite in 1983. But Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was thriving. It was a hotspot for kids' birthday parties, and everyone loved it. The puppet animatronic had been moved there as well, no longer a security device, and instead was there to give out gifts to the children. But William noticed something strange about it. The puppet moved around strangely at night. Sometimes the animatronics would move around, but the puppet did so in a very strange way. William thought back to the way that Charlotte's dead body had been found. Lying next to it had been the security puppet. Although it sounded crazy, William realized what Henry had realized so long ago. Charlotte's spirit had made its way into the puppet. He also thought back to what Evan had told him as the Fredbear plush. He had seen something outside his window, a dark iteration of Fredbear. William knew that wasn't him, so who could it be? Coincidentally, it was the same night that he killed Charlotte. It was almost like her death had kickstarted a slew of paranormal events. The creation of Shadow Freddy, Shadow Bonnie, as well as the possession of the puppet. With the puppet being next to Charlotte's dead body and the puppet being seemingly possessed by her now, he theorized that the spirit could either follow whatever is nearby on their death, whatever caused the pain of their death, or a mixture of both. The spirit follows the flesh, it would seem, and also the pain, but he needed to test his theory. Fast forward to June 26th, 1985. William Afton goes to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and finds a young girl named Susie, who seemed upset. Using the Spring Bonnie suit, which had originally been a performer at Freddy's but was locked up along with Golden Freddy after the 1983 bite, William wore the Springlock suit and approached the girl. Susie's dog had recently been hit by a car. Afton took this opportunity to tell her that it wasn't true and that her dog was actually nearby, telling her that he would take her to him. She followed him, and from there, it was too easy. He lured her to the safe room and locked her inside, waiting until the building closed for the night. Susie was locked in the safe room for hours until finally, everything in the building was still. Her fear was building, and William brought the Chica animatronic into the safe room, grabbed Susie, and stuffed her inside. She tried to resist, but she was powerless. The wires inside the animatronic zapped the little girl and killed her inside the animatronic. If William was right, the spirit would follow the flesh, and also the pain. If he was right, the spirit of Susie would possess the Chica animatronic that she had died in. But is he correct? Soon enough, he would find out. But he realized that for his plan to work, he would need more. He would need to kill more kids. Excluding the one that he himself wore, there were 5 total animatronics. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and Golden Freddy. Chica was done. There were 4 animatronics left. Bonnie would be next, then Freddy, then Foxy, and then Golden Freddy. 1 down, 4 to go. William Afton's plan was set into motion. He had killed Susie and stuffed her into the Chica animatronic, but he needed to kill more children. What he didn't realize was that there was another kid still inside the building, a young boy named Jeremy, who had been dropped off at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza by his parents and left him there as if it was a daycare. So what did William do? He lured Jeremy to the safe room and stuffed him into the Bonnie animatronic. Days passed. Another 3 children, Gabriel, Fritz, Cassidy, stuffed into the animatronics and killed, and William realized that he was correct. The kids possessed the animatronics they were stuffed into. But Charlotte was still around, inside the puppet animatronic and trying to help Evan. But when William kills 5 more children, Charlotte springs to action, working to ensure that unlike the missing children, Evan does not get trapped inside animatronics. She tries to get his help to set up an event that would free everyone's soul, but in doing so, what happened was exactly what they were trying to avoid. Evan's soul got trapped inside Golden Freddy along with the spirit of Cassidy. Charlotte couldn't help the other kids if there was no one left to help her, so she found something that could help her. Shadow Bonnie was used to help Charlotte set up the pieces of Happiest Day. Now all that had to be done was Evan had to put the pieces together, but none of the spirits could be set free until they got closure. Afton had to be stopped, but unluckily for Charlotte, the opportunity passed. As it turns out, William was caught on the cameras luring the children away, which got him arrested. The one problem though was that the bodies of the children were not found. No one thought to check inside the animatronics, and so they had to let William go. But with William occupied, Michael had to get used to taking care of Elizabeth more and more. Despite not being convicted for the murders, William was kicked off the Fazbear Entertainment Company due to bad publicity. The safe rooms were shut down to avoid people being lured into there, and not long after, the bodies began to exude blood and mucus, which leaked out of the eyes and the mouths of the animatronics. Fazbear Entertainment tried to keep the restaurant open, but they couldn't. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza shut down. After learning that it was most likely William that killed his daughter, Henry could not take it and also left the company, leaving it dormant for a couple years. William's wife gets angry that he lost his job. She had been realizing that over the past couple years, he'd been much more distant. She and Michael didn't truly believe he was a murderer, but she was still a bit worried about William. The missing children incident led to a cascade of extra events. As it turns out, the mimic endoskeleton witnessed the luring and stuffing of the children. Because of its mimicking properties, that means that the mimic would try to replicate it, but maybe that'll have to wait for a bit later in the timeline. However, the agony from the missing children incident created another Shadow character, this one being appropriately named the Shadow, primarily using the body of the scrapped 4th Charlie robot as its physical form. With Henry and William both off the company, Fazbear Entertainment now had a new CEO, and they decided to reopen Freddy Fazbear's Pizza 2 years after the missing children incident in 1987. It was a successful restaurant, so as long as nothing bad happened this time, it would be another massive success. However, when they threw the old animatronics into the parts and service room, they discovered the dead bodies of the missing children, but they removed the bodies and covered it up to avoid bad PR. To prevent anything like the missing children incident from happening again, Fazbear Entertainment designed new animatronics called the Toy Animatronics that had facial recognition systems to prevent any more murders. However, it doesn't work. The location started off as successful, but unbeknownst to Fazbear Entertainment, William had begun working as the night security guard under the fake name of Dave Miller. His Spring Bonnie suit had been left to rot along with the old Freddy's building, but Golden Freddy had been brought over. Since the bodies had been taken out of the suits, William was able to dress up in the Golden Freddy suit and lure 5 more children to the parts and service room until nighttime, where he killed them all and brought them all out to get the attention of the animatronics. Cassidy didn't much like that. Cassidy had already been angry about being murdered, and she'd already been angry that he'd stuffed her into one of the only 2 unused and immovable animatronics. But now, he used her body to murder children. It was heinous. But to William, it was just another day. However, Cassidy wasn't the only one that was angry, because at another Freddy's location, William had killed a kid named Andrew, a boy who, when he was alive, was quite an angry kid, but when he was killed, he was fueled with absolute rage. He wanted revenge. William had killed him by stuffing him into an alligator animatronic. However, everyone disregarded his murder because of the overshadowing of the murders at the second Freddy's location, with the 5 more children that were murdered by William. William would now try to enact his plan. He tried to lure the animatronics to him and destroy them. However, he didn't expect that Charlotte would be guiding the spirits, protecting them. She got in the way of his plans. The bodies are inside the parts and service room for about a week while a new guard shows up to work the night shift named Jeremy Fitzgerald, with William now on the day shift. During his week on the job, the animatronics, including the toys, began attacking Jeremy. Why? Because the kids that William murdered possessed the toy animatronics. William intends to continue with his plans, but then he is discovered, being fired from the company once again, leaving the day shift open for the taking. The company begins to notice the abnormalities with the toy animatronics, and a police investigation is started. On Jeremy's 6th night working as the guard, the bodies are found, and he is moved to day shift for the birthday on the following day, the final event for the location before it would shut down. The guy explaining everything to Jeremy over the phone tells Jeremy he'll take the night shift when the location reopens. The discovery of the dead children gets the animatronics riled up, especially Mangle, an animatronic that was essentially a ripped apart Foxy animatronic with an unhinged jaw. So when Jeremy was switched to day shift, Mangle lunged at him, mouth wide open, and bit him straight on the head. This event ended up becoming known as the Bite of 87. While the second Freddy's location was planned to open back up even after the dead bodies were found, the Bite of 87 just buried the location deep into the mud, getting it shut down after only a few short weeks of being open. But while the location was closed down, they still needed a guard to watch over the building. With William Afton now banned from Freddy's 2, he sends his son Michael to go to Freddy's to be the night guard, explaining how to defend himself and explaining what to do. He would have to work the animatronics programming and tamper with the animatronics. However, this tampering caused the animatronics to become more aggressive during Mike's night shift. To not be associated with his father and to not be kicked out immediately, Michael uses a fake name when he works at Freddy's, Fritz Smith. With everyone else believing that William was the killer, Michael Afton actually believed differently. He truly believed that his father was innocent, so he did what his father told him. But after just one day on the job, he got fired. Fazbear Entertainment had essentially gone bankrupt. Their second Freddy Fazbear's Pizza had been an absolute failure, causing them to lose a lot of money. So how could they get their money back? They had to open up a new Freddy's location, but with no money for new property or new animatronics, they reused the old ones. Freddy's 3 would be the same building as Freddy's 1, just refurbished with the old animatronics from Freddy's 1 repaired and redesigned. The safe room was still sealed up, the location was fixed up, and the animatronics were brought to the old building, and Freddy Fazbear's Pizza reopened 1 year later. The third Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opened in 1988. All things considered, the location was actually really successful. 6 out of 10 children preferred the Freddy's Pizza recipe over any other pizza, and the restaurant lasted for 6 whole years. But in the meantime, the Afton family wasn't doing so well. Elizabeth was still just a little girl. Michael had to take care of her for the most part, while William was very distant from the two of them, but William's wife was having none of it. Ever since Evan died, William had been way too distant. Losing Fazbear Entertainment made him even more distant, and William was not a good husband. And he was a bad father. And he was an even worse man. And so, his wife divorced him. However, she recognized that he was not a good father, and she tried to get custody of Elizabeth. But William, he wasn't going to let that happen. William manipulated Elizabeth into saying awful things about her mom, making her look bad to ensure that she would not get the custody. He was successful, but in response to this, Afton's now ex-wife killed herself. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was doing pretty well. The phone guy worked as the night security guard. It was great, but over time less and less people started visiting. Eventually, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was set to close by the end of 1993 because more and more people were getting uncomfortable with going to this location where children had died. Early in November of that year, the phone guy was set to stop working at Freddy's, so he left messages for the next night guard. However, in the middle of his week, his luck runs out, and Golden Freddy kills him. William then sends Michael in as the next Freddy security guard. But this time, William didn't decide not to do it himself because he couldn't, but rather he sent Michael to do it because Michael was disposable. But Michael still just believed he was helping his father, still completely unaware of the psychopath that he was working with. So he went along with William. He worked at Freddy's for about a week and was fired once again for tampering with the animatronics and his odor. About another month goes by, and Freddy Fazbear's Pizza shuts down. 1994. William Afton starts his own company following the closing of Freddy's. He calls it Afton Robotics, and he begins work on new animatronics, his own animatronics. All four of the animatronics were based on the different members of his family: Funtime Freddy, Evan; Funtime Foxy, Michael; Ballora, his dead ex-wife; and Circus Baby, Elizabeth. However, all these animatronics had one thing in common: they were all designed to kill. William designed these animatronics to kill more children, and he created a restaurant for which they would do that: Circus Baby's Pizza World. William also created his own Springlock suit, because although they were cancelled all those years ago for safety, when did William ever care about safety? This suit would be for him to use in scenarios when the animatronics didn't do their jobs, or when he just wanted to do things himself. However, what Afton didn't expect was for Elizabeth to be obsessed with Circus Baby. She wanted so badly to play with Circus Baby, but William knew that that would not go well, so he tried to keep her away. But on the first day that Circus Baby's Pizza World opened up, Elizabeth snuck away while William wasn't looking. She snuck away to Circus Baby, and what happened was exactly what William was trying to prevent. Circus Baby used the claw mechanism inside her stomach to reach out and pull Elizabeth into her, killing her. Circus Baby's Pizza World instantly shut down. According to William, publicly, it was due to gas leaks, but in reality, it was the death of his daughter. William's task essentially failed successfully. The animatronics killed the child, but it just killed the wrong one. But William knew that it could work, and he knew that he had to try to use these animatronics again. But this time, he took a different approach. Rather than a restaurant, William created a rental service called Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental, and the main factory for this rental service would be easy to access underneath William's house. He tossed all the Funtime animatronics down there and hired more people to keep the business running were he to leave for whatever reason. But he still had his plan that he wanted to enact back in 1987, but was unable to. Now with Freddy Fazbear's Pizza broken and rotting, the building had no guards and no one to stop him. With the help of Shadow Freddy, William's rage monster, William lured Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy to the safe room at the abandoned Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and tore them apart, collecting all of their endoskeletons. On his way out, he also took the endoskeleton out of Golden Freddy and brought them all to the Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental facility. William had built this machine called the Scooper, which would essentially inject Remnant, what William referred to spiritual energy as, into the animatronics. Remnant was essentially like electricity, in that it can exist on its own, but there's some things that conduct it much better. Metal is a great conductor for Remnant, which is one of the reasons why the animatronics' metal endoskeletons were possessed. Using the endoskeletons, William would harvest the remnant from the original 5 missing children. He melted all 5 endoskeletons from the 5 animatronics together, tying all the spirits together, and put this conglomeration of melted endoskeletons into the Scooper, then used the Scooper to inject this remnant into Funtime Freddy, Funtime Foxy, and Ballora. This was the key. All the death surrounding William was appalling, not because he hated murdering people or that he was sad about it, but because William didn't want to die. He believed that Remnant, though, could be the key to eternal life, and that's what his plan had been all these years. Now all he had to do was return to the safe room, retrieve the Spring Bonnie suit, and seal the room up. However, he did not account for the tiny remaining fragments of the spirits, the small memories and emotions that were left behind inside the animatronics that had now been released. The fragments of Susie, Jeremy, Fritz, and Gabriel blocked his exit out of the safe room, while the full spirit of Cassidy, who had not been included into the fun times due to her soul residing in the shell of Golden Freddy, with Evan being in the endoskeleton, was still here, and she chased William through the safe room. He had no choice. He hid inside the Spring Bonnie suit, but the roof had holes in it. Outside, it was raining, and it was leaking through the roof, and it leaked into the animatronic. The moisture from the rain caused the spring locks to snap, plunging all the metal parts straight into William's body. But Cassidy wouldn't let him get off that easy. She kept him alive, so that the pain of getting spring-locked would never end, and he would never get the satisfaction of death. Henry found the aftermath of all this, and he sealed up the safe room, leaving William to rot inside the safe room for years to come. Michael was the last person in his family that was still around. He always did what his father asked of him, but now his father was gone, and he didn't know where he was. Before he disappeared, though, his father gave him a location and told him that he could save his sister. Michael didn't believe it. His sister was dead. He believed his father was going crazy, so he chose not to go. But 2 more years passed. After 2 years of putting it off, Michael finally went to do what his father asked. He headed to the location and found an entrance to a building inside which was an elevator. He stepped inside, and the elevator began bringing him down, underground. A computer voice spoke to him, treating him like he was a new employee. Michael was now inside Circus Baby's entertainment and rental. The first night went by easily, and he would watch soap operas after his shifts, but every night, more and more crazy things happened. Michael met Circus Baby, who seemed to be trying to help him, telling him what to do to defend himself from the animatronics that were inside the factory, but Michael had to do some pretty simple tasks, repairing electricity, fixing up animatronics, but the animatronics would also attack him, and he would have to defend himself. One night, he was attacked by Funtime Foxy and kidnapped for the night. The next night, people were searching for him but couldn't find him, but Michael overheard technicians sending Ballora to the scooper to be destroyed. Michael managed to survive the week, but on the final night, Circus Baby told him that she needed to be scooped and that there was something wrong with her. Michael helped her. He headed to the scooping room, avoiding what was supposedly Ballora, but it wasn't. Michael had been being manipulated all week by Circus Baby, who had now contained the spirit of Michael's sister, Elizabeth, and the Funtime animatronics were all scooped. Their endoskeletons combined together all into one entity, with Circus Baby as the main boss. And when Michael learned this, he was scooped. The combined entity, Ennard, used Michael's body almost as a skin suit, with Michael unable to control his body in the back seat, while Ennard used his body to escape Circus Baby's entertainment and rental. But Michael's body began to rot. His organs had been scooped out, and the remaining blood he had was being pushed up against his skin, essentially turning his skin purple. Ennard realized his body was defunct and escaped into the sewers. Michael's body lay in the street, still alive, but also dead at the same time. His brain was alive, but while he was under the control of Ennard, his body couldn't keep up and thought he was dead, causing it to rot. But the missing children were there, still remaining inside him. With a sort of realm inside the remnant, Michael interacted with the missing children. He helped them, brought the fragments of their spirits that had been separated come back together. He helped them remember the past, and he helped them become whole again. So what did they do? They kept Michael alive, even through his rotting body. His organs and eyes had been gone, but the remnant inside Michael grew them back. Michael stood back up. He was alive. But then, Michael realized what was really happening here. Inside Circus Baby's entertainment and rental, he discovered blueprints of the Funtime animatronics. Each of them had details that helped them lure and capture children. Michael finally realized the truth. William had built the Funtime animatronics to kill children. It was true. All those years ago, Michael stood by his father, truly believing him to be innocent, but it was true. William was the killer. Michael was appalled. He couldn't believe he'd stuck by his father for so long. His murderous father, for all these years, doing his bidding and helping him in any way that he could. But not only did William murder children, those children were still around. Their spirits had been inside the Funtime animatronics and now entered, and they'd prevented him from dying. Over the course of a few days, Michael stays at home, and the remnant manages to heal his body, essentially making him a normal human again, at least regarding his body, but his mind? No. Michael was a completely different man, through and through. Now, Michael had a different goal. He had to fix his mistake. He had to stop William once and for all, and he vows that he will find William. So he goes searching. Years go by. Searching. Searching. Where was William Afton? Years go by of Michael trying to find William, but he couldn't find him. Anywhere. Assuming William was gone for good, Michael gave up. He met a woman. He married her. He started a family. He had a daughter in 2003, and he named her Vanessa. Michael lived his life to the fullest, believing full well that it was over. But Elizabeth and the missing kids thought differently. With the missing kids being much more aware after Michael helped them, they didn't exactly get along with Elizabeth anymore. After a long time of trying to work together, the missing kids couldn't take it anymore. They booted Circus Baby out of Ennard. Both Ennard and Circus Baby returned to Circus Baby's entertainment and rental, the exit now perfectly open for them to leave as they wish, and they found some of their old parts to rebuild themselves. Circus Baby used parts of her old body as well as the claw inside her chest, moving it to her hand. Ennard used Funtime Freddy to rebuild itself, and this marks the creation of Scrap Baby and Molten Freddy. While all this was happening, Fazbear Entertainment, run by someone other than William and Henry, was trying to regain their public image. They needed to try to discredit the old murders. What Fazbear Entertainment did was they hired an indie game developer named Steve Snodgrass to make video games based on those old murders to make people think that they were only rumors. This ended up kind of working, but it also made Fazbear Entertainment's public image kind of go down a bit again. However, to convince Steve Snodgrass to actually make these games, they put him into a fake reality and gave him a scenario that would make him think that he needed to make money and that these games were the only way that he could do that. Eventually he figured it out after he made the third game, but then he was killed because he figured it out and never finished the fourth game. Eventually Henry managed to salvage the company, but the cover-up was already set in motion. More years pass. Many years. Now it's 2023. Michael is happily married with a 14-year-old daughter, and he wants nothing to do with his old life. However, other people worship the urban legends of the murders at the old Freddy Fazbear's Pizza locations, so much so that a group of people created Fazbear's Fright, the horror attraction, essentially a horror attraction based on all the Fazbear murders. They salvaged parts from the old locations and things like that, but despite Michael's old goal to stop William, he no longer wanted anything to do with Freddy Fazbear's. He's completely lost sight of his goal. He deliberately chose not to work at Fazbear's Fright. However, Evan was having none of it. You see, Evan was inside the Funtime animatronics along with the other missing children, excluding Cassidy, meaning that when Michael was injected with Remnant and helped the kids, he was also helping his brother too. But with the Remnant still residing inside Michael Afton, Evan was still there too. Until now, he understood. He knew Michael had good intentions. He'd forgiven him because he knew it was an accident and he knew that Michael was trying to make up for his mistakes. But now, Michael was deliberately avoiding it. He understood why, but he also knew that William was still around, and he knew that Michael had to stop him. He needed to remind him of everything that had happened. He needed to show Michael the nightmarish experiences that William had put Evan through. He needed to remind Michael of his experiences at Freddy's 2 and 3. He showed him the bedroom. He showed him the nightmare animatronics. But most importantly, he showed Michael the IV drip and flowers to symbolize Evan's own death. And he also showed Michael just a glimpse of what William had become through a toy that resembled his current self. Evan pushed Michael through nightmares so that he would finally realize that the work is not done, and Michael gets the message. He applies to work at Fazbear's Fright, the horror attraction. What Michael wasn't exactly expecting was for the people working at Fazbear's Fright to discover a mangled Spring Bonnie suit that... Wait, was there a dead body inside there? Trapped inside Spring Bonnie, inside the spring trap, was the dead body of a man. Michael knew instantly who it was. The Spring Bonnie animatronic was a dead giveaway. This is why Michael couldn't find his father. He was here, trapped inside Spring Bonnie. William had become Springtrap. Michael had to defend himself from his father for 6 days, all the while the agony emitted off Springtrap gave Michael hallucinations about the past locations. He was also given a logbook during his time there, which was based on the ones that would have been given out back in the old Freddy Fazbear days, and Michael used this to document his feelings about the job, his past memories, and things like that. However, at the end of Michael's 6th day working at Fazbear's Fright, he makes an attempt to destroy Afton once and for all. He burns down Fazbear's Fright with William inside. Everything was set. While Michael was working there, Evan put together the pieces and set everyone free. Their happiest day. Once William was killed, they would all be able to finally rest. But Cassidy wouldn't let that happen. Michael tried to release them, but Cassidy would not let that happen. She would hold William here. She would keep him alive no matter how many times they burned them. She ensured that William's pain would never end. She wouldn't let him die. So William survived. His suit was damaged from the fire, but he managed to survive. The fire died down, and William managed to get out of Fazbear's Fright, returning to an old Fazbear location and using old Spring Bonnie animatronic parts to rebuild his body, and with that, Scrap Trap is created. As it turns out, Charlotte, the puppet, was still around as well, and she was in the building when it burned down. Her spirit was still there, but the animatronic was incapacitated. It could move a little bit, but not very much, but that wouldn't exactly be a problem. See, Henry, nearly 80 years old by now, had been constructing a plan to end everything. He would lure everyone back to the original Fredbear's Family Diner building, put together as a new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza place that would appeal to and lure in all the remaining spirits into one place and destroy them all. But instead of luring Charlotte into the location, he created a device called Lefty. Lure, encapsulate, fuse, transport, and extract. It was a black bear animatronic that Henry built to lure in the puppet and capture it and then bring it to the repurposed Fredbear's, now known as Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. So it found the puppet, lured it towards it before capturing it and trapping it inside itself. Fast forward just a few months to October of 2023. Henry opens Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place and finds a volunteer to run the restaurant. He expected a random guard and made sure to leave an escape route, but then he learned that the guard and manager of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place was actually Michael Afton. He still hadn't given up. He would see to it that everything ends. Molten Freddy, Scrap Trap, Scrap Baby, Lefty, all the animatronics made it to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place, and when they were all there, Henry set the place on fire, trying to burn away all the remaining remnant and set everyone free, but not before giving a pretty fire speech, pun intended. Henry knew that Michael would be at peace with dying, so he, along with the scrap animatronics and Henry himself, all burned away into a pile of ash. Or so Henry thought they would. See, Henry believed the remnant would burn away if exposed to extreme heat. He wanted all the spirits to be set free, and he wanted Fazbear Entertainment to die with him. But unfortunately for Henry, his plan failed. While the animatronics were kind of buried underneath a burned down building and trapped, no one was set free. Michael was still alive, and he managed to escape the burned wreckage using the way out that was planned for him, and he wanted to die with everyone else, but the problem was that the remnant inside him did not burn away, and no one else was free, so he couldn't die. Henry's plan was to free everyone and destroy the company, but the company was only just beginning, and the only person Henry killed with the fire was Henry. Henry was gone, but everyone he tried to destroy was still here. He'd overlooked some of the details that made his plan what it was. He didn't realize that there was only a chance that Remnant would be destroyed by heat. He thought it would absolutely happen, but he was wrong. Molten Freddy still contained the spirits of the missing children, and their remnant was still inside the body of Michael Afton, who despite his rotisserie chicken of a body was able to return to his family, being healed by the remnant inside him after a few days. He continued his life with his daughter and his wife. Meanwhile, Molten Freddy, Scrap Baby, Lefty, and Scrap Trap were still underneath the wreckage of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. Although they weren't freed and still did pose a potential threat, they were trapped for the meantime. But Afton? While Afton was trapped underneath the Freddy's building, he was being tortured through nightmarish experiences by the one kid that everyone forgot about. The one that he shouldn't have killed. Andrew. Andrew was a child that William murdered sometime back in the 80s, but no one knew about him. Everyone forgot. Andrew was always quite an angry kid, and when William killed him, he wanted so badly to get revenge. But he wasn't the only one. Andrew was the one William shouldn't have killed, but Cassidy was a vengeful spirit. Afton was trapped down here beneath the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place building with nothing left to do, being tortured by Andrew and Cassidy. Meanwhile, the Fazbear Entertainment Company was going to be shut down, but a billionaire had bought out the company. A billionaire who just couldn't stand to see this company that meant so much to so many people just disappear for good. He couldn't let that happen, so he bought the company. Construction immediately began on Fazbear Entertainment's biggest project yet, Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex. Multiple of these pizzaplexes would be made, but the main one would be built in the original town of Hurricane, Utah, right on top of the burned down Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. Construction begins while Fazbear Entertainment hires a game company called Silver Parasol Games to create a game making fun of games that a supposedly rogue indie game developer named Steve Snodgrass had made a long time ago. However, what they didn't tell Parasol was that Fazbear Entertainment had actually hired Steve Snodgrass to make these games to discredit the rumors of murders so that they could retrieve their branding and allow their company to be popular again. The employees at Silver Parasol eventually did find out about this, but it was immediately overshadowed by something looming in the files of the Freddy Fazbear virtual experience. Silver Parasol and Fazbear Entertainment wanted the performance routines and an animatronic behavior within the game to match what they had in the past, so they retrieve an endoskeleton that had been made in the 80s by a man named Edwin, who was now a consultant for Fazbear Entertainment. The endoskeleton was called the Mimic, and it essentially mimicked the actions of humans that it saw. Fazbear Entertainment thought that it could retrieve the programming called Mimic 1 to replicate the actions of the past animatronics for the game. It did work, but unfortunately it also let out something undesirable. Back in the 80s, when the Mimic Endo was created, it had been exposed to a large amount of agony and anger that it primarily exerted those types of actions. The Mimic Endo had also witnessed the murders with William Afton luring and stuffing the children into the animatronics and killing them. When the Mimic was let out into the game, it began mimicking the actions of Afton, recreating the actions of William Afton luring and stuffing the children into the animatronics. The Mimic programming formed into an entity known as Glitchtrap, essentially a virus recreating the actions of Afton, but the programming also was able to insert itself into the beta testers. The first beta tester, Jeremy, had gotten infected with the Glitchtrap virus. A girl began documenting her experience working for the company, talking about Jeremy's actions as he was driven more and more into insanity. Silver Parasol was planning to fire him, but eventually Jeremy cut off his own face using a guillotine paper slicer. This tape girl ended up being the next beta tester, but she realized that Glitchtrap had attached itself to her tapes, which she hid in a small compartment of the game, so she tried to destroy the anomaly, but failed and got herself possessed by Glitchtrap as well. These tapes were planned to be for the next beta tester, but when she separated them all, it allowed for no one to be aware of Glitchtrap, and eventually, the tape girl was thrown out of the picture. Enter Michael Afton's daughter, Vanessa. Vanessa had been very curious about what caused her father to be so invested in the Fazbear company, so she decided to work for the company, becoming the next beta tester following the tape girl. However, Vanessa begins noticing strange things about the game, finding strange glitch tapes all over the place. She collects 16 in total, listening to the documentation of tape girl's experiences with Glitchtrap, but as Vanessa collected them, Glitchtrap appeared to her, becoming more and more fully formed. Vanessa finds the final tape which tells her a supposed way to destroy Glitchtrap, so she tries it. However, she failed. Tape Girl had already been possessed by Glitchtrap and had intentionally set up Vanessa to be as well. Vanessa was now haunted by Glitchtrap, who had been influencing her thoughts, forcing her to do things that she didn't want to do. He forced her to go to work a computer job for Fazbear Entertainment. Michael notices what was happening with Vanessa. He recognized that it wasn't over, and the Pizzaplex was even being built near his house, and likely eventually on top of it. Michael had no choice but to move, but before he did, he created something. He built a breath of life, reflecting the younger brother he killed all those years ago. A robot of his brother, one that could grow up like a normal kid, and when it was old enough, would destroy Fazbear Entertainment and destroy the new Glamrock animatronics that would be used for the Pizzaplex. Meanwhile, those Glamrock animatronics were delivered to the under construction Pizzaplex, but there was an anomaly among them. The original Mimic endoskeleton, still mimicking Edwin and his son's behavior as it observed back in the 80s. The construction workers were confused. A guy working on renovating Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place named Gil took this opportunity to try and prove that he belonged on the tech team, not the renovation crew. He and the others working on renovating the place were trying to make it into a kind of museum dedicated to the old Fazbear locations, and to do so they had to clean everything up and remove all the decommissioned endoskeletons. However, Gil had the idea to use the Mimic endoskeleton and program it to rip off all the arms and legs of the endoskeletons around so that they wouldn't have to do it themselves. It worked. Gil was able to program the Mimic to actually do that. The other members of the renovation crew praised him until the Mimic finished piling up all the now dissected endoskeletons and turned towards Gil, ripping off all his arms, his head, and flipping him upside down and tearing off his legs. The Mimic began to rip apart all the members of the renovation crew except one guy named Danny, and more construction workers rushed in to see what all the screaming was about, leading to their demise as well. Danny escaped the pizzeria and ordered the construction workers to seal up the pizza place, leaving everyone trapped in there to die with the Mimic. Some time passes, and Michael's recreation of his brother, now named Gregory, lives his life like a normal kid, with fake memories in place so that he has no idea what he truly is. He goes to school like a normal kid, he eats food and showers like a normal kid, and he has a normal family including his father, Michael. Some time passes and the Pizzaplex opens with many incredible attractions like a roller coaster, Freddy's Fortress, go-karts, laser tag, and the Urban Legends Role Players Auditorium, and many others. However, there had been one attraction, Ballor's Fitness and Flex, that was originally planned but got shut down due to an incident that happened inside. Safety protocols went wrong and an employee was found dead, but this attraction ended up getting replaced by an attraction called Mazercise, essentially the same as Ballor's Fitness and Flex, except the maze was not through tubes but rather through actual walls, and the main character of the attraction was now Chica. The Pizzaplex does open though, and it is a massive success, making pools of money. However, the expenses of the Pizzaplex actually began outweighing the income, so much so that the board chairman, Mr. Burrows, decided that they had to remove some of the things that are costing them so much money, including the story writers that created stories for arcade machines, the AR and VR booths, and the Urban Legends Role Players Auditorium. Many people lost their jobs, but in their place would be the storyteller, an animatronic that would live in a baobab tree using the Mimic 1 programming, would automatically generate stories that would be used for all those games. The Mimic 1 program would essentially mimic the old story creators in the way that they would use the different factors of storytelling, including different characters and such, and create the stories that way. However, this baobab tree was placed in the center of the Pizzaplex and had wires that connected all throughout the Pizzaplex and into the attractions, spiraling all throughout the Superstar Arcade and other attractions. These wires carried the Mimic 1 virus, spreading it throughout the whole Pizzaplex, including into the Glamrock animatronics, amplifying their personality traits. Edwin knew that there was something wrong with the storyteller, and so he investigated, finding out that the storyteller was an animatronic designed like a familiar white tiger. Edwin was shaken about this, and he entered the storyteller's tree every day to try and fix everything. Mr. Burrows, the Fazbear Entertainment board chairman, believed that Edwin was the one causing the problems with the Glamrock animatronics and trapped him inside the storyteller's tree. However, because the tree had no ventilation, Edwin ran out of air inside the tree, dying, but not before writing a strange code and the words "I'm sorry" onto numerous pieces of colored construction paper. Mr. Burrows entered the tree and found Edwin, but he realized that he made sure that there was no way for Edwin to escape the tree, meaning that the door into the tree shut behind him, and eventually he ran out of air too, and he died. His body, as well as Edwin's, is found in the storyteller's tree, and that day chaos ensued in the Pizzaplex, lights flickering all around, and the tree was removed from the Pizzaplex, and H. Crofton, the CEO of the company, sends out an email to none other than Michael Afton, someone with Fazbear Entertainment in his blood, to join the board, and he does. A couple of years go by, more and more incidents happening in the Pizzaplex and getting many of the areas shut down, as well as a Fazbear Entertainment delivery service. It is now 2026. Vanessa is working a computer job for Fazbear Entertainment, but with Glitchtrap in her head, she isn't doing so well. See, what he makes her do is he forces her to infect Gregory with the Glitchtrap virus, using him as an experiment to learn how this robot works. She does it, and he ends up being an even more efficient follower than Vanessa, following her as she goes to therapy, communicating with her, and manipulating her commonly, hacking the Glamrock animatronics and introducing the fully advanced and more aware Glitchtrap code into them, changing them slightly into more amplified versions of themselves, making Monty more aggressive, Chica more hungry, Freddy more spoiled and submissive, and Roxy more self-centered. Vanessa began going to therapy and trying to get help because she was essentially going crazy with Glitchtrap in her head. Gregory followed her to therapy to keep an eye on her, but he basically became a patient himself. The therapist slowly linked Gregory to suspicious activity within the Pizzaplex, and whenever they did, he would kill them. Then the next would find out, and he would kill her, and the next, and the next, and the next. While this was happening though, the spirit of Elizabeth had made its way out into the world. All Elizabeth wanted to do was make her dad proud. What she essentially did was she possessed Vanessa, joining Glitchtrap as a voice in her head, influencing her actions. What the Mimic wanted, though, was to essentially become the man that he was mimicking. He wanted to become William Afton. To make this happen, a few more things happened. Somehow, the old Springtrap suit that William left behind after the fire at Fazbear's Fright had been brought into the Pizzaplex and made its way to the Urban Legends Role Players Auditorium, and this led to a couple deaths which got the auditorium shut down. This gave Vanessa an opportunity. Vanessa bought fake fabric and began crafting her own rabbit costume. Vanessa, in this persona, became known as Vanny. She then requested a transfer from her current Fazbear Entertainment desk job to a security job at Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex. The transfer was granted, and Vanessa became the head security guard with the help of her father suggesting her for the job despite her lack of experience. Like father, like daughter, am I right? Using her rabbit costume, Vanessa lured and killed 9 children, leaving them in a room with endoskeletons which their spirits promptly possessed. Vanessa then brought these endoskeletons as well as the old Springtrap costume down to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. The Mimic sent her there, along with Glamrock Freddy, down under the Pizzaplex and into the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place, and she used Freddy to dig a hole down, clearing the path to the labyrinth and down to William Afton's body, still barely alive and still being tortured by Andrew and not Cassidy, who was no longer in his body as her spirit had been wandering, trying desperately to destroy the Mimic, which made her realize that torturing William would never really help anything. All it did was keep the rest of the spirits around. All she wanted now was to destroy William and everything to do with him. But Andrew was keeping him alive. Vanny melted the endoskeletons together and used the remnant, fusing Afton's corpse to the Mimic and injecting his body with the remnant. This caused Afton's body to begin regenerating, and it was now one with the Mimic. The Mimic program, now in tandem with William, was too strong for Andrew to keep William tortured, leaving him powerless, with William now back in control. While Freddy was down here, however, he came into contact with a fragment of the spirit of Evan, who found his way into Glamrock Freddy. However, as of right now, the Glitchtrap virus overrode the spirit. The remainder of Elizabeth's spirit inside the Scrap Baby animatronic made its way into Vanessa's head, reuniting the fragments of her spirits with each other. What Vanessa's goal entailed next was becoming the only security guard at the Pizzaplex. The Pizzaplex had staff bots which carried out various tasks, but what Vanessa needed to do was encourage Fazbear Entertainment to create security staff bots to replace all the other security guards. Fazbear Entertainment was very set on using authentic characters for their coding, using the Mimic when they couldn't. However, if they were going to use security robots, then what better to use than an actual animatronic that was an actual security device? And so, while she was under the Pizzaplex, she found the puppet animatronic and scanned it onto circuit boards to send to Fazbear Entertainment. However, this also scanned the puppet's spirit into all those security robots, which was not the intention. Charlotte's spirit, however, was able to infiltrate some of the remaining wires from the storyteller's tree, specifically the ones in the Superstarcade, expunging the Glitchtrap virus from that area of the Pizzaplex. However, Vanessa's plan worked. Every security guard excluding her was fired from the Pizzaplex. However, when this happened, her Vanny side came out, and at this staff meeting, when it was announced that everyone would be able to enjoy extra time with their families, Vanny killed every security guard. The incident was covered up, and that staff room was shut down, and Vanessa was now the only security guard in the Pizzaplex. As the Gregory robot grows up, surpassing the age of 13 in 2027, he transitions into another, a slightly older robot which promptly had to be adjusted, transferring the Glitchtrap virus from the previous bot into the other one. Because they had no use for the old one, they threw him out into the street. The 12-year-old Gregory that was thrown away though still had a consciousness, being forced to be homeless and sometimes using the Pizzaplex as a place to sleep. This Gregory no longer contained the Glitchtrap virus but also couldn't return home because there was an imposter in his place. Gregory didn't know he himself was a robot, but he did know that Vanessa could not be trusted and that the other Gregory was evil. And then we fast forward ahead to 2029. Spirits are wandering, Vanessa is doing her best to help Glitchtrap as well as Burntrap in the basement, the missing children still reside in Molten Freddy, who has now absorbed the spiritless puppet and circus baby, who are both absent from their original bodies. Old scrapped animatronics from the delivery service had been thrown down into the pizza place when they were no longer needed, and they were absorbed into Molten Freddy, who built upon himself, making him into a giant blob, an amalgamation of animatronics tangled within the wires of Molten Freddy. Burntrap was now manipulating the spirits inside this blob into thinking that he was their friend. Monty had destroyed Glamrock Bonnie, who Vanessa disposed of, throwing him somewhere unknown, and Gregory was living inside the Pizzaplex. Many attractions had been shut down, including the roller coaster, VR and AR booths, Freddy's Fortress, and many more. The only attractions left were Fazer Blast, Kids Cove, Mazer's Size, Monty Golf, Roxy Raceway, and Bonnie Bowl, which had now been void of Glamrock Bonnie. One day during her performance, Freddy glitched out, ruining a little girl's birthday. As he woke up, he discovered Gregory inside his chest. Freddy had to be put in safe mode, a program which did not run the Glitchtrap virus, and this allowed Evan's spirit to take control. However, Evan no longer had any memories, and he'd essentially become one with Freddy. He wanted to help Gregory, so throughout the night he tried his best to protect him, defending him from the other animatronics still infected with Glitchtrap, who were hunting Gregory down to take him to Burntrap, who was fascinated that this robot was still active and wanted to learn more about it. Gregory, though, had his original purpose shine through, destroying Monty, Roxy, and Chica, and using their upgraded traded parts to upgrade Freddy. Gregory was trapped in the Pizzaplex all night until 6 AM when he decided to stay because he and Freddy knew that leaving wouldn't change anything. They needed to destroy what was going on. They didn't know what, but they suspected that Vanny was not the only mystery that needed solving. All the parts acquired for Freddy, they found their way down through an elevator into the cave that Freddy Fazbear's Pizzaplex had now been within. Inside, they found the Blob, they found Burntrap, and they tried their very best to destroy him while also defending from the Glamrock animatronics, which were somehow also down here. Gregory continued to burn Burntrap, but nothing worked. It did, however, manage to set the room on fire, causing it to begin crumbling. It was at this moment that the Blob recognized that Burntrap was not their friend. His manipulation was over, so the Blob turned on Burntrap, grabbing him and pulling him away. However, with the delivery animatronics that still contained the Mimic virus also within the Blob, would the Blob truly be able to defeat Burntrap? Well, only time will tell, but as of now, it's not looking good. Cassidy was still wandering, unable to destroy the Mimic yet. Vanessa was still possessed by both Glitchtrap and Elizabeth. The older and Glitchtrap infected Gregory was still on the loose, and a lot of loose ends were yet to be tied up. But the outcomes and answers to those questions are not available yet. All we can do is make predictions as we wait for the answers to unfold. Anyways, guys, I hope you all enjoyed the entire Five Nights at Freddy's timeline. Now remember, this was all just my own theory, so if you guys disagree, that's completely fine. It's a FNaF timeline, so there's a lot of stuff in here, meaning there's a lot of stuff that people can disagree with. Now, this was a really long video, almost an entire hour, so if you're still here, make sure to type in the comments saying, Baby Yoda. The only reason I thought of that was because I have a Baby Yoda plushie right here. Leave a like for the Baby Yoda plushie. But I hope all of you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to. And make sure to check out some of my other videos if you haven't already. If you're new here, then yeah, go check out some of my other videos. I have some other videos that are planned for the future. Just because I just made a FNaF timeline doesn't mean that I don't have more stuff to make theories on. I absolutely do. So, stay tuned for that. But I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, guys!